Hello, Cover Killer Nation fans. The theme of today's album review are going to be opposites. The opposite of depression is excitement. And excitement is exactly what many of us, myself included, have certainly felt over the past couple of months ever since hearing the new song by the band Katatonia. But it is now time for us to review the full-length album, Dead End Kings, by the masters of doom and gloom, of distress and depression. It's time to examine the entire release, which is going to be coming out here within the next couple of weeks. It's time for us to rejoice because the time has finally come. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice whenever you listen to this record, the very first thing that's really going to pop into your head after the first couple of tracks is going to be that nothing seems to jut out at you. Everything feels very status quo. And for Katatonia, especially over the course of these past few records, that's a very good sign, a very healthy start. Considering the past few albums, Night is the New Day being the most recent, have certainly garnered widespread acclaim. And really, it's one of the main reasons why I've been such a huge fan of these guys. The very first album of theirs that came out whenever I was a fan was Viva Emptiness. But ever since then, I've traced my roots with this band all the way back to their inception. And they've constantly wowed me. So this being status quo over the first couple of tracks is not a bad thing whatsoever. Instead, this is something to embrace. Now, as you start to move on a little bit, you start to think, well, what's going to jut out and really capture your attention? Where's that track? Where is it? Don't worry, it definitely comes. You get about 2 or 3 on this release. Now, while that might not be as poignant or as many as you're perhaps used to on past Katatonia releases, might not be something that you see as often as you do on other Katatonia releases, that is no means reason to deem this album to be a slouch in comparison to the former releases. It actually is a way of them kind of taking the ball and rolling with it a little more. Now, Katatonia has been a band all about experimentation. This is a band that did not start off in this particular mode of music. In fact, they started off with more of a depressive black metal styling to them, or a black and death metal, whatever you really want to call it. All the way back whenever they first came out, almost like a doomy approach was probably the more apt way to put it, considering they were impressively long song lengths and just very, very haunting soundscapes. The atmospheres on these tracks were just simply chilling. And as they've moved forward, and as they have bridged over into clean singing after one album with Mikhail Ackerfeed on vocals, Brave Murder Day, they have slowly but surely continued to push the envelope of a progressive doom or a progressive depressive metal. Progressive? I don't know. They have pushed the boundaries each and every album just a little bit further, and that is something to respect. That's what a band really should do. They should push the boundaries a little bit more each time, consistently try something new, consistently try something a little bit fresh, while not necessarily completely abandoning something that they've attempted prior. That was hard for a lot of people to kind of understand whenever they bridged the gap from an album such as Brave Murder Day and Discouraged Ones. And obviously the title Discouraged Ones itself could really paint an elaborate portrait. But here on this new record, many people may claim that there isn't enough experimentation. There isn't enough of that boundary pushing. There just isn't enough of it. And I would have to kind of be 50-50 on that. I think that there's enough subtle intermingling of some new ideas, some new melodies, some new progressions. Goes right hand in hand with the whole progressive genre, doesn't it? That really does see this as a boundary pusher. I really see this as a lot like Viva Emptiness, only with a little bit more sinking into the deepest parts of the gallows. I listen to Viva Emptiness, and I kind of get where it does have that haunting glow, and really it's all the atmosphere that kind of gets me, you know? There are tracks on that album that gave me a very, like, Silent Hill, calming silence, you know, I guess feeling of demise that were encapsulated in there, but at the same time there were also other songs that almost offered friendly olive branches of peace. It was a very strange duality that existed on that record, which I do believe is the reason why I loved it as much as I did. On this album, it's going to be more in tune with the dark side. It's going to be more in tune with that. You're not going to hear as much of a heaviness on this record, but whenever you do, it is going to be very, very hard and very, very easy on the ears of your traditional metal fan. However, whenever they decide to bridge over to that lighter side, that more haunting that side, that perhaps many people were hoping would come from a B-side like Unfurled that was released a couple of years ago, that's where a lot of people may think to themselves, what have I gotten myself into? It once again returns to that subtle glimmet of being, you're trapped in this strange location where there's haunting silence. However, there is a picture being painted by the lyrics. A picture that doesn't always spell a positive ending. In fact, more often than not, it spells something very, very gloomy, just awaiting around the bend. I think that this album, though, after coming off of a work like Night is the New Day, is going to fall a little short. I think a lot of people may see this too. If you don't, then I applaud you, and I think that your opinion's fantastic. I await watching the reviews that you guys have all posted regarding this, and you should definitely enjoy this. This is definitely a solid record. I am not sitting here saying that because it falls a little short, it immediately is just bleh. No, in fact, this is a really, really solid album. Katatonia is one of those bands where if you say that a record of theirs has fallen just a little bit short, you're still calling it better than most of its contemporaries. And that is one thing that has distinguished Katatonia as truly one of the stalwarts in this genre. I'd probably give this an 8.5. And I might be being a little generous there. However, as I've listened to this album more and more, I've found more and more aspects about it that I've really enjoyed. There has been more tracks that have really stuck out to me. The opener consistently has brought me, right into the album. And it's one of those things that an opener needs to do. It needs to put you in that setting and get you in that mode and really introduce you to what you're going to be a part of. And that does this exquisitely well. I like the fact that there are bends and changes during this entire album, that it's not something where they stick to just one general concept or one general tone. However, overall, I think 8.5 is probably about as high as I'm going to get right now. Maybe this is one of those things that takes 10 to 20 listens until I am exposed to its brilliance. However, right now, past works are looking a little bit better. Like I said, though, that doesn't make this album any slouch. Now the depressing part. I just talked about ICP a couple of weeks ago. Now it's time for me to review the Mighty Death Pop.